Hello everyone and welcome back to our online sessions series. In this episode we're going to work on our client side's lobby screen. We got the host one done where we can change map and characters and show the player list. We're going to do something very similar now over on the player side and also set up the ready up button as well. So let's get started and actually generate this screen for our client. So our client screen at the moment is pretty bland. It's just this client text here. So we're going to replace this. Now the client screen does have a couple of limitations and differences compared to the host screen. First of all, they will have in common the player list and the change character. However, what they won't have will be the change map option, but they will also, instead of that, have a ready up button. So let's replace our text here with our contents. So for this, I'm going to load up my host screen because I want to keep them fairly similar in design. So I'm going to just put that to the side here and look at the design for this one compared to this one. Okay, so we've got make this across like so. Okay, so I've got the canvas panel with a border and a vertical box. So I'm going to replace this text here with a vertical box. Inside that vertical box, I'm going to have a list. So look for the panel and we're going to use a vertical box there. And we're going to call this one the player list. And we're also going to have a text underneath that. And this text for the host says map. For us, it's going to be is ready. And then beneath that, we're going to have a button for the player to hit to indicate that they're ready to start the game. Then we're going to have the character select. So another text field. This one saying character select. And we're going to put in the contents for this. So we need two buttons and a text. So inside of a horizontal box. Got two buttons and a text field with the buttons on either side of our text field. Okay. Yeah. And then we got the start match button, which we don't want the player to have. We're going to have that blank there. Okay. Then finally, we're going to put in a spacer right at the bottom of our vertical box. Okay, so now I've just got to make this all look a bit tidier and match the settings we've got on our player host screen. So I'm going to go to the player list here and set that to fill. Set the vertical box as well to stretch across the whole width of this area. But we're going to give it some padding here on left and right. So. And on the player list, we're going to add in some padding on the top here of 30. Okay, then I want to go to my character select here, put padding here for the top 30 again. And we're going to click on this horizontal box for the character selector and tell that to fill the available space, fill the available space, sorry. We want to click on the text bit in the middle and tell that to fill the available space, right? And we're going to set that text there to be center aligned. And we'll just correct that and put that space in there. So, and we're looking, I think that's not too bad. Okay, brilliant. So the other thing we've got to do here is we're going to click on our player list and make it a variable so it can be altered and changed later. Okay, so what we've got to do on here is set up our update player list. This is the same sort of function that we've got on our our host screen. So it works pretty much the exact same way. We're going to go to the graph here and make a custom event. And we're going to call this one update player list. And it's going to have one input. And that input is going to be the player list. Player info, sorry, not player list. And the type for that is going to be player info struct. And you want to make that an array because it's going to have multiple players. So the first thing it has to do is clear the list. So on the player list here, we're going to drag this out and clear it. So next I'm going to drag out my player info array and do a for each loop. So I'm going to go through each one and create a player card and put it into our player list. So from loop body, create widget, and we're going to choose our player card, and it's going to ask for the player info, which comes from the array element. And finally, we're then going to add this to the player list array vertical list here. So add child to vertical box and connect that up, putting the return value into it. So this is exactly the same as it is on the host one. No difference. Okay, right, you can click compile and save on that. We'll come back and do like the character selection stuff another time. We're just going to get the ready up stuff working. So now I want to go back to my lobby controller. On the lobby controller, we've got this update player list, and currently this is only doing it for the server based on this authority pin here. I want to now do the remote side of things. So for this, I'm going to drag out my lobby widget again and do cast to, and I'm going to do lobby client screen. Plugging that into the remote. And then I'm going to call the update player list. That's the function we just made. And we're going to plug in our connected player info. So it's just exactly the same as it is for the host, except that it's casting to the lobby client screen instead. Okay, hit compile and save that. So to test this out, we're going to click host match and then join the match. And then it will show up eventually. There it is. And we will see now the player lists matching. All well and good. Okay, now we're done with that. We're going to go and work on our ready up feature. But the way the ready up feature works is that the player will have to click on their client side screen as they're ready, and that will tell their controller to update their player info. However, we need to make that a server only event because the server has track of all the controllers, so it needs to update their version of it more so. So let's go into our lobby controller and let's create our custom event here. And I'm going to call this one set ready status. Okay, and it's a relatively simple one. But what it's going to do is just going to drag out the player info, and we need to break it to get the is ready, and hide the other two, and then we're going to come from it again and do set members in player info struct and tick on the is ready. And that will change just that setting on our player info struct. As I said, we want to make this a server only event. So on the right hand side, do replicates and tell it to replicate only on the server. Okay. So what will happen here is now it's changed the player info, it's going to actually want to now update all the player lists that each player has. So that is handled by the game mode. So in the game mode, we've currently got this set up for the post login, and this does what we want it to do. However, we can't call post login again. So let's make a custom event that handles a similar function. So this one we'll call update player lists. So the first thing our updated playlist is going to do is it's going to wipe the connected player info that we currently have collected. So we're going to clear that and wipe that now. And then we're going to go through each of our connected players for each loop. And for each one, we need to rebuild our player information here. So I'm going to drag out our connected player info array and do add. And we need to now drag in our array element and get the player info from each controller, adding each one to that array. When it's finished that on the completed here, we're basically going to do the end part of this. So we're going to do select all this, and we're going to paste it at the end here and drag this to completed. So now each controller can be updating and getting their player info, and each one again is going to be going through and updating their player lists. We have to do this at the end because we need to have this array completed. So then back on our lobby controller, we're just going to get the game mode, and we're going to cast to our lobby game mode. And we're going to call that update function, update player lists, compile. And one thing we need to do here, we need to make sure we flip-flop this. I forgot to put the not in. So if you put a not in between a get and a set of a boolean, basically flips it. So true becomes false, false becomes true, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's that function done. Next, we need to go back to our lobby client screen and work on the button. So the button here, we're going to get the player controller, and we're going to cast to our lobby controller, and then we're going to call the ready status function, and that will flip-flop the ready status. Now, to be able to see this taking place on the player card, I'm going to go to the player card widget, and I'm going to change the select here that's being used for the textures for the ready up, and I'm just going to use the default ones that come with the engine for like red and green icons here. So if it's false, it's going to be red. True, it'd be green. Okay, let's save everything and test it out. So there we see two players joining the game, and if I hit the ready up button on the client screen, you can see the red dot has now become a green dot on both the client and the server. And the reason why it does it on both is because we're changing on the server version of the controller, and the server version is, as I always say, is king and boss. So therefore, if it changes there, it's going to change it wherever it's replicated. So that'll handle that there just fine. So in the next episode, what we're going to be doing is making it so that host is auto ready, so you don't have to have the host ready up at all. And then the host can't start the match until all connected players are signaled to be ready. You can watch that next part right now over on patreon.com/Ryan Laley, where from just $1 you can watch all of my videos before anyone else, as well as a host of other benefits too. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye everyone.